Okay, welcome, soulmates, to another episode of the Breathe and Receive podcast. We have one of my nearest and dearest soul sisters with us today. Her name is Ellanah. I'm going to read her bio to you guys so you can get of a little bit about her and her energy and her vibe. Then I'll introduce her a little bit more, and then we'll flow into an incredible conversation that I'm excited to bring you guys today. I've been waiting for this conversation for months. I'm super excited, and I know it's going to support a lot of you. So, Ellanah is devoted to supporting others in softening deeper home to their true essence and embracing the wild beauty of being alive. She's been sharing yoga around the world for nearly a decade. She is a Reiki master teacher, breathwork guide, and ceremonialist, woman circle space holder, nature lover, new mama, and a forever student of life. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to introduce Ellanah to you all is, do you ever have people in your life that they feel like an anchor to a feeling that you love to feel? Well, Ellanah is that for me. She is the most unconditionally loving person, nonetheless, friend and mother and partner. And she is so feminine. And by feminine, I mean like so in her healthy feminine energy, relaxed, leaned back. Everything seems to be flowing. And just through her voice and through her meditations, you can feel that within her. And today we're going to talk about one of her very powerful tools that she's gotten me hooked on, that I am obsessed with, literally obsessed with. It's called Yoga Nidra, also known as non-sleep deep rest. So welcome, Ellanah, to the show.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, when you asked me, I was like, yeah, it feels so good to be here and exciting to talk a little bit about that. And I know you do such deep work with women as well, and just I think the importance of how rest is necessary for women. But I'm just honored to be here.
Yay, I'm so happy to have you here, and the time finally aligned. It's so perfect. And, a lot of the listeners are moms or women who are looking for love, for purpose, for abundance, and entrepreneurs. Those are the main listeners. And I would say the majority of them live in a society where it's very it's the culture, it's the standard, it's the norm to go and go. And I love that you just brought up rest, because that's not necessarily the norm unless we are getting our 7 to 9 hours of sleep in at night. So can you talk to us a little bit about rest in general and how Yoga Nidra has benefited you and your clients?
Sure. So, I think you really hit on things just then around the nature of our culture and our society, how it demands so much from us. It's like productivity based, like create, do. And like, that's not bad in and of itself. Like, we are creative beings. Like, we've come here to create, to almost like make love with life, and to continue to plant seeds and watch them grow and nurture them and experiment and explore. However, if we don't balance that yang with our yin, it's completely unsustainable. And so Yoga Nidra is one pathway to balancing that yin energy, to kind of giving us that sustainable foundation to create from. And beyond that, it also shifts where we're creating from. So if our yang is that beautiful creative energy, it's like that outward creative energy. at some point, if you're just outputting, your bucket's going to be empty. And I'm pretty sure we've all felt that feeling of like complete depletion, overwhelmed by life, just like so many demands, and just feeling like you're like, you can't keep up with it. Like it's almost like you're having to go too fast and give beyond what's actually you even have to give left. And at that point, then often our creative energy shifts to survival. Becomes about survival. It often comes from the mind. It can be coming from scarcity. And so by balancing that with that deep yin, that deep rest, it provides that foundation that refills the bucket, where we're creating from that place of abundance, from inner abundance, from a place of overflow, from a place of balance and being in our center. And the nervous system is such a huge part of it. So yoga nidra is so powerful for balancing the nervous system and also strengthening and toning the nervous system.
What does that mean? To strengthen, tone the nervous system?
Building resilience. So when we are kind of like, when we don't have that tone, we can be far more easily thrown off balance. So something comes and it's like, and we can be much quicker to go into reactivity. So kind of going into whether your response is fight, flight, fawn, freeze. We can be just much more prone to being there and living there in general as well. So by toning it.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, then we have that resiliency and also a depth of self-awareness. Kind of, I feel like by toning, we build the awareness to be able to kind of like really hold our reactivity and be able to just kind of come back to homeostasis. So it's the ability to hold oneself back to homeostasis as well.
Wow, that it really makes me think of like muscle tone. And like you need a strong core. If someone's going to push you, you might fall over. If you have a strong core, strong legs, like you can keep yourself balanced. That's so amazing. I've never known that about yoga nidra and the nervous system, that you can build that. And when you were describing the well of abundance that happens when we rest and when we're in that deep state of rest, it reminded me of something I learned from Andrew Huberman. I think I learned this when I was staying with you in Costa Rica earlier this year. And I was on this kick of learning about dopamine. And he had this clip on his podcast about how when we are entrepreneurs and we get really excited about creating something, or if it's a new year and you're like, okay, I want to set all of these goals and I'm really excited and I have all this adrenaline, and you go for it. And then all of a sudden you feel completely burnt out, completely depleted. He was talking about how a lot of that has to do with dopamine and how we actually can deplete the reservoir of dopamine. And that the number one prescription he has for that is yoga nidra, to do that for 10 to 15 minutes a day to refill that well of dopamine from within, to continue to have that sustained creative flow and that sustained energy drive and that sustained feeling of enthusiasm, rather than completely depleting it and running on empty.
Oh, I love that so much. With the reference to dopamine, I remember you sharing about that in the podcast episode. Was there a podcast episode you found of him?
Well, his podcasts are like 4 hours. So I found a 20-minute clip and it explained it.
Oh, wow.
But it was enough to get me hooked. And, you know, for everyone listening, I said in the beginning, and I've told Ellanah how obsessed I am with this, and specifically Ellanah's session. She has someone Insight Timer, and she also has a course coming out beginning next week all about yoga nidra. And even today, I had a few things, very few, on my to-do list or to manifest list, and I got them done. And then I'm sitting there and I'm feeling a bit jittery. Like I had been on social media editing a video. I scrolled for maybe 5 minutes and I felt that anxiety in the nervous system that comes with that. And my mind thought, I need to get rid of this feeling. So maybe I should do more work. Maybe I should scroll some more, all of these ways that we can kind of avoid the actual root cause of the anxiety and procrastinate feeling it, which actually ends up making it worse, which I found in my own body. And I was like, I'm going to do a yoga nidra. And I kid you not, I did one of yours on Insight Timer. I'm laying there and I just feel so relaxed, so present, so full of love. It's like genuinely pure abundance is what I feel when I do it. And from that place, you're so right. Like what the inspired action comes from next is way more in alignment with my soul and what I'm meant to be doing rather than what my mind is kind of wanting to do in that anxious nervous system place.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes. As you were saying that too, it was kind of taking me to just the framework and structure of Nidra is like, it's so much about that. Like there's all these incredible health benefits to it, but ultimately it's this ancient practice. It's about reconnecting us to our soul and reconnecting us to truth. And the pathway it takes, it's going inwards deeper and deeper in order to connect with that. So it's like first you're connecting with the body, and then with the breath and energy body, and then with the mind, and then with the deeper intuitive mind, and then home to the soul.
Wow.
So it's almost like I feel like in our everyday we get fragmented within one of those bodies. Like the mind takes us off, or like kind of we disconnect from our intuition, we disconnect from who we are, and it's like almost this invitation to remind you, like, okay, here's your body. Okay, let's go even deeper beneath that. Let's begin by filling your body, because we begin by filling the body with awareness, and then drop back and back and back and back and back. So as you were saying that, I was being just reminded of that pathway and feeling it in myself, like, oh yeah, that's like the deeper power of it. And like one of the things it does do then is it completely can respark your creativity, your imagination. It can bring you back to kind of that childlike state where everything is possible, and that dreamlike state, because it's actually going into dream states of consciousness with awareness. And in our dreams, kind of, we can have those brilliant moments of inspiration and insight, and we can have spontaneous healing, we can have deep integration, we can have understanding of things. And so thank you for sharing that.
That's so amazing. I'm such a logical person, and to hear what's going on while I do it, it makes so much sense. I remember I was laying with someone that I was dating, and we did one together, and he was like really stressed at work that day. He was trying to figure out some code, and we get into such a relaxed state that all of a sudden the answer came to him. It was like it came the moment he stopped looking and he just dropped in that deep. So can you share with us, a lot of people who hear the word yoga, they think of, down dog and child's pose. What does a yoga nidra session look like?
So it is completely different to that. So that part of yoga is kind of like the tip of the iceberg of yoga. And with yoga nidra, you're just going to be lying down. I mean, there's a few ways of doing it where you can start to bring it into walking and into movement. But primarily you're lying down in Shavasana. It's on your back, either on your bed, on a yoga mat, making yourself really comfortable. And then the yoga is inside. So outwardly, you might just look like you're kind of having a nap. But
literally. I was like, my family, someone's home today, and I was like, they're gonna think I'm just napping in the middle of the day, which is fine, but there's so much happening here that they have no idea.
Yes. Yeah, it's wild, isn't the amount that happens.
Mhm.
I just came back from a craniosacral seminar, and it's really working with that same space, like accessing, I guess, like, I don't know, I'd be interested to hear what you say about this. I often find it's like accessing the quantum field, but
Mm.
through the body, like the entryway being inwards through the body and reaching infinity through the body. And kind of like miracles and homecoming and like rewiring, and everything starts happening through that portal.
Wow, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
You know, when I do quantum field meditations, usually it's the opposite. It's going outside of the body. But what I've learned through this program that I've told you about, but everyone listening, it's basically this energy healing program. We can access this like oneness with everything from inside and from outside. It's like we have internal systems and external systems. And when I do yoga nidra, I feel like I'm floating in the quantum field, like literally floating. So I almost feel dizzy sometimes. So I totally believe that.
I love that so much. I feel like you're such a like example too of carrying those energies of creativity and kind of like that deep yin in balance. Like when I feel into you, and like whenever I speak to you and see you, it's like you have so much activation in your system, but then this deep like surrender into the flow, and like that deep like incredible ability to just like soften, drop, and kind of like
Yeah. Thank you. That's so good to hear you see that, because I do have that active energy. And I think a lot of creators do. It's like all these ideas, all these things I want to do. And my number one goal every day is just to feel like love and peace. I want to look back on life and see if how much time, how many minutes, how many seconds could I have created that feeling. And for me, creating and doing things brings that, but only for a short amount of time throughout the day. Or then it turns into the anxiety that I experienced earlier, where my intuition is like, stop, be, like rest in your feminine. And it's really thanks to you for introducing me to yoga nidra, and to a lot of just, I think, being around you. And we lived together for a few months earlier this year. It's really just taught my nervous system and me a little bit more about how to be very surrendered to the flow. So I'm curious, and I actually don't know if I've ever heard the answer to this question. Has there ever been a time where you haven't been you, the you that I know today?
I think actually recently, which is so funny.
Really?
Yeah, I've just like coming back from this craniosacral seminar I've just been in, like I feel so much back to me, but arriving at the seminar, so maybe some context for listeners. I'm a new mama. Our little baby is about to turn 1. He was a surprise blessing that turned our life upside down. And so my nervous system has gone on quite a journey this year. And anyway, I turned up at this seminar, and I had no idea how dysregulated my nervous system was. And then on top of that, how much I'd normalized tension in my body to the point where I wasn't even aware of it. And I was doing a hold with someone, and one of the teachers came over and was like, like you'll feel much more relaxed in your body if you like support your arms in this way. I was like, I thought I was feeling really relaxed. And then he shifted them, and I was like, oh, that's what relaxation feels like. And we've just had a lot of movement recently. So definitely for me, like I come and go in waves. And it's funny, I've always been known as this very kind of like soft, like more like peaceful, grounded, slow energy. So people are often surprised and like, oh yeah, like I get really bad anxiety. And like things like that. So it definitely comes and goes. And if I don't do a practice for a long time, my nervous system is much more sensitive, and kind of I go into that overwhelm, depletion, like forcing in a way, like tensing my way like through life rather than with life. So recently it's definitely been a little chapter of that. Now I just feel really grateful for that, for the training I've just been on to kind of highlight that and almost like bring me back and like soften me back. So yeah, so it's definitely like a lifelong practice of awareness and making the space to kind of cultivate that deeper yin foundation. And to, yeah, like for me, meditation is such a huge pathway for that as well. And that's actually how I first got into Nidra was I was struggling to meditate. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing called Yoga Nidra instead. And this must have been like 12 years ago, something like that. And it helped to open me to the state of meditation. And then suddenly meditation became much easier and I fell in love with it. And this beautiful long affair with meditation and Nidra has been. But yeah, it's went off on a little tangent there, but yeah.
I remember you telling me that having the baby, having Luca, magical little one, brought up so much like biological anxiety in your body. Like when you're in the car, it's no longer just you, it's you and your baby. It's like this little one that he needs you to survive, right? So it makes sense why there would be that biological anxiety. And like I said before, we have a lot of moms, and if they're not moms, we have a lot of business owners where their business is their baby. So anxiety is a hot topic here. And I'd love to know, you shared, of course, Yoga Nidra is a tool for you. Meditation is a tool for you. I guess I have two questions here. The first one is, are there any other practices you would share that help you return to that center, into that yin? And then the second would be, if someone wants to meditate, but they're having that trouble as well, would you recommend practicing Yoga Nidra before meditation or vice versa? How did that flow for you?
Okay, maybe I'll answer your second question first because I feel like it's shorter. So I would say practice Nidra first, and then practice meditation after, or even just devote yourself to Nidra for a while. Really get in touch with that state, that place that you kind of become, and then start to integrate a meditation practice and just see how it shifts. Yeah, and then your first question. So the other practices I really use are breath work and intuitive movement. So sometimes, I don't know if you experience this at all, but I definitely experience it sometimes. Like since becoming a mother, my nervous system is so agitated that if I lie down and try to do a Nidra, it just actually doesn't work. Like it's like I remain at the surface and I follow it, but I don't get to touch the deep state because there's almost like too much at the surface. It's like the ocean is just so wild that I can't dive under to access that peace. And then it can almost like bring up more frustration because it's kind of like I'm there but not there. So then I use breath work because I really feel like sometimes that just like takes you and like, so if we say we're a river for a moment and just almost like gives it a shake. Like I do rebirthing breath work and then some more intuitive breath work and yogic breath work. And then it kind of shakes things up. You can start to move things out and then let it resettle. So I often find if I'm really needing like a deep reset and the Nidra or the meditation, like it's just I'm too agitated, then I turn there, or I turn to movement. So I do shaking, I do some physical yoga, some dancing. Now my energy is much more back after having Luca. Like in the beginning, I just actually didn't have that much physical energy, but now I've been walking, and with my dad here in LA, we were going on big long hikes, and that just felt so good. So it's like, again, like almost just as much as we need that kind of slow stillness, sometimes we need that physical exertion to be able to replenish the stillness. So it's like they're always going hand in hand and dancing with one another and supporting one another. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that you shared all of those. And that brings me back to that dopamine conversation, because another thing that he shared is putting ourselves in discomfort can bring a lot of comfort and can actually give us that dopamine release. I think the primary conversation was talking about cold plunges and how they've looked at the dopamine release and all of these feel-good hormones of people who drink and people who do cocaine and other drugs. And it goes up a little bit, and then it almost immediately, within 10, 15, 20 minutes, completely drops way below baseline level. Same thing with scrolling on social media. And cold plunges, when it's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, but when you get out, it continues to rise for 4 hours, way above levels. Yeah. Same for exercise. I don't know about the hours specifically, but exercise, which can be uncomfortable, brings us that feeling, that feel-good feeling. And it's the same with meditation, breath work, and I can only assume yoga nidra as well. One of the things that I'm loving about my nidra practice right now is it's so effortless. It's like, I love breath work. Everyone on this podcast knows I love breath work, but even that requires this effort. And for me right now, in this current time of my life, I just love to fully surrender and just like rest in awareness, which is the yoga nidra practice. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that.
I love that. Have you noticed any like really strong shifts since you've been integrating it into your life more?
I mean, honestly, so I started integrating it into my life back in maybe, what was it? April, May or June of this year. It's October now. And in the past month or two, I do it at least 4 to 5 times a week. And I swear, like I have been experiencing such deep peace and gratitude. It kind of is blowing my mind. Like I'm currently visiting family in Maryland. And in the past, when I would come visit here, I would have so much resistance. I would want to fly to a new country after a couple weeks. I would complain. I would try to have gratitude, but not have it. And I really believe this Nidra practice, along with, I guess, just growth over time, has really, and I've really prioritized a gratitude practice as well, like all throughout the day. I am just resting in this place of peace and gratitude and love. And it's just blowing my mind. I'm like, everyone's asking me, where are you traveling to next? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I feel so good where I'm at, and the guidance will come. And, with this podcast and with everything that I teach, and I'm sure everything that you teach, it's like, that's my goal, is to help people feel that way, feel so good in their bodies and where they're at, that they can flow with life.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I feel like you're already such an embodiment of that. So like to hear from you that that's expanded even more, I'm like, oh.
Well, thanks. But it really requires those practices. Like if I weren't to do them, I mean, I'd probably just be very unhappy, and I'd be trying to manifest from a place of lack and like frustration. So I think the practices are so important. If someone's saying like, okay, Ellanah and Alicia, I want to begin a practice to soothe and regulate my nervous system and to feel more within my yin energy, what would you recommend?
Definitely yoga nidra. Yoga nidra. And as you're saying that too, I was like seeing some like very like slow feminine embodiment practices, like almost like getting on your mat, closing your eyes and moving with your fluid body to just kind of like slow everything down, and just come home to the body. But I feel like yoga nidra is it's like magic,
It's
really.
magic.
Yeah. So much so. And I think it really has that like that feminine quality to it. When we were speaking earlier about kind of the quantum field accessing inwardly and outwardly, like traditionally that kind of feminine, if we kind of look at the yogic symbology, like the feminine is like the down, like descending into the earth, and the masculine is that like ascension, like expanding into the universe. And there's that dance between formless and form, and yoga nidra really follows that pathway of the feminine. Like, let's go deep into the body, like feel the body, like feel. We for those who haven't experienced it, we do body rotations around the whole body where you're placing your awareness in different points. And for me, like it's so profound every time, just like bringing you so deeply inside, and it just does something. It's like often that's like, I mean, that's right at the beginning, and that's often when people just like they dissolve into kind of like nothingness. And that's also a muscle. It's in this craniosacral training I was just on, we were talking about the senses. And they're like, okay, how many senses are there? And everyone's like, well, traditionally 5, but really 6. And they're like, well, actually there's like 9. And one of those senses is it's called interoception. And so we have like proprioception, which is like where we are in time and space, but interoception is actually like the physical sense of the inside of your body. And I don't know what it is, but it's like almost like, I think when we pay attention to that, when we give that more awareness, that like quality of feeling inside, feeling your muscles, your bones, your energy points, the nervous system almost relaxes, like, oh, finally you're with me. Finally you're here. Like, thank you. Like, that's what I've been asking you for. Like, you're here, you hear me. And by moving awareness through the whole body, and going off on a bit of a tangent again, but it's coming through, it is that practice of abundance. Like, very often we starve parts of our insides from awareness, from energy, because of a feeling of lack, a feeling of fear, maybe of touching a place. And yoga nidra, in the safest, most gentlest way, invites us to fill our whole being with our whole being. And so it's an incredibly powerful practice and incredibly restorative. We go into it in the course a bit about the different brainwave states, and how it's not only dropping you through your different bodies, it's also dropping you down through your different brainwave states. And when we get to delta, it's like the place where regeneration and healing happens. So there's cellular regeneration happening. There's like the deepest emotional integration. People often like, oh, it's like a plant medicine ceremony. It can be so powerful. And like you shared, if you're practicing it all the time, like multiple times a week, you are doing magic again for your system. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important to look at, like, if you're feeling called to yoga nidra, anyone who's listening, to look at all of the different benefits that it can give you, because we've talked a lot about feeling, just like feeling rested, feeling whole, feeling your intuition, feeling home in your body. But there are tangible benefits that come from that Ellanah is touching on right now, which is healing, like healing from within, healing your physical body just through this deep, beautiful, enjoyable practice. And I truly believe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Ellanah, that like physical abundance can come from this, improved relationships can come from this in all areas of life, because when we know how to self-soothe and to relax and to come home to ourselves, we hear our intuition more clearly, which can guide us to taking action that will create more abundance for ourselves and our businesses. And in relationships, we can get, I mean, it's so easy to get triggered in relationships, let's be real. And when we can self-soothe, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need to bite their head off for, parking in the wrong spot or whatever it may be.
Completely. It gives us perspective. So it's like, there's this beautiful analogy that we come to in the course, where it talks about kind of like all the things that we hold on to during the day, that the stories, the kind of like the roles, like everything we think we are, and we grip onto it in our hand. It's like, this is me, these are my ideas, this is who that person is, like everything, like just and in yoga nidra, it's like you drop beneath those things, because we're dropping beneath the level of the mind, and so the palm starts to open, and so suddenly we have more possibilities. Like if, like, say you are in a gritty place with your partner and you're holding a really strong idea of who they are and what they've done and who you are within that disagreement, if you're gripping to that, it's hard for it to budge. But if you suddenly let that go and kind of like open up the possibility of like, oh, well, maybe they didn't mean to do that, or maybe when they said that, it wasn't what I thought they were saying. Like, actually, maybe I projected that tone and things like that. It just starts to open up more of a curious and inquisitive mind with life, and invites you to kind of like, and the same about the things we hold about ourselves. Like, I know you go into this with people, like all the limiting beliefs and things that we hold, like, okay, well, I am this, I am that, whole like stories we hold where we don't even realize it. And in the practice, we can just start to let those go without even trying. I think that was the beautiful thing that you said, where it's like, it's a completely like no effort practice. I mean, you focus your awareness, so there's like the tiniest bit of effort in that way, but
it's like the most effortless, enjoyable effort.
Yeah, completely.
With immediate returns.
Exactly. And it can have such like profound shifts. I remember I did one the other day, which has now really inspired me as to one I want to bring into the course. That there's a part of it where we go through pairs of opposites. So it's kind of like training our mind to kind of step out of duality. And in this one, she guided us through feeling contraction in our body and then feeling expansion, and then going between the two. And it's so simple, but something about, you've already been dropped into this really deep state of consciousness, and then you're being guided through that. And I had such a profound shift. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm holding so much contraction in my body. But I don't have to, because I can actually hold and feel expansion. I'm just choosing to be in this contracted state when I could actually choose to be here. And that they're both just like on the same spectrum, dancing with each other. So you can have these really beautiful, profound moments of unwinding something, of just being like, oh, great. In the most effortless way. It's so amazing.
Amazing. It just shows how like the tension we hold in our body is so related to the tension we hold in our life, in our mind, in our relationships. So let's talk about the course. Everyone listening, in case you're wondering, I've already raved about Yoga Nidra so much. Yes, I will be in Ellanah's course, her Yoga Nidra course. And I will want you to share a little bit about it with them in case they feel called to join.
Amazing. So it's a 5-week course online. We have one live call a week where there'll be a workshop on a certain element of kind of the science as well as the spiritual philosophy of Nidra. And then we do a live practice with one another. And then you also receive a recorded practice each week that has a movement beginning to it as well. So we'll weave in some yin yoga, some intuitive movement. And at the heart of it, it's really there as this container for you to integrate this practice into your life. And for this set time to be held in devoting yourself to self-love and self-awareness and growth and replenishment. There's lots of resources I'll send you to. So you can kind of decide how deep you go. I get really kind of like, I love being a student. So kind of I've made workbooks for each week that have like a lot of information that for some of you, like you'll be like, yes. And for others of you,
I'm here
like,
for it.
yes. Yeah, but that bit is kind of up to you, like how much you want to really explore the kind of the background of it and the science of it and all those other pieces. But ultimately, yeah, at the heart, it's this journey of being held and regenerating and slowing down to hear a little deeper and to reconnect with yourself through conscious rest. Yeah, and I love it because I get to do more of it during that time, like to really focus on that. It's like every year when I get to this point, I'm like, yes.
Amazing. Yay. Okay. There you have it, everyone. I personally am so excited for this. I've been telling Ellanah for months and I'm creating a lot right now. So it'll be so nice to know that I have that container of yen and Nidra for the full 5 weeks. And Ellanah was super kind to offer you all a discount. So I'll put the link to it and the discount in the show notes of this episode if you feel the call. If you're listening to this way down the line and it's not open now, you can go to her Instagram and shoot her a message, follow her, and get on her email list so that you know when the next one will come out. And Ellanah, thank you so much for being you. Thank you for being here today, sharing your magic with us. I love you so much.
Oh, I love you. And thank you for inviting me. Oh my gosh, this is like the most beautiful honor and getting to share in this space and just get to reconnect as well through the screen because I love you. You're always this like spark of inspiration in my life. It's like inspiration, activation, and love.
Oh,
So,
thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
yeah, bye.